Yay, people's Phil/Poly going here, back behind the curtain for episode 17. Welcome, one and all. We're talking fight clubs on this one. Man, 17, this thing could almost vote. This thing's almost an adult in the States. Our little channel's growing up. Talking fight clubs. So this past weekend, I found myself in sort of an impromptu fight club. On the PC, just kind of bombing around. Some friends from the channel, some new friends were just messaging back and forth. You want a match, want a match, want a match. Before you know it, Fight Club springs up of its own volition. And it's got me thinking a lot about fight clubs, mostly in their beneficial properties. It is just a great arena of learning to get together with some buddies, have a bunch of matches in rapid succession, work on some stuff. Nobody's really got anything to prove. And this was actually my first Dark Souls fight club. Oddly enough, I haven't really sought them out. I haven't really put anything together, which may change. I haven't really participated in any in the few months I've been playing this game. And I say that's odd because I fight clubbed the dickens out of Demon's Souls. I was just constantly clubbing in Demon's Souls. me and that maiden in black just all night long. That was awful. I am so sorry. Speaking of sorry, I know I'm a little tired. I'm a little tardy with this video as well. It's been about a week and some change since my last one. I'm trying to be more regular with the cadence, so I do apologize. I've actually had several episode 17s in the can that I've been working on and just hated all of them. Couldn't really find anything I liked. So when the Fight Club thing came up, it was like, yeah, Fight Club. That's where it's at. I don't know why I thought I could catch that arrow in my ribs, but episode 17. I'll try to stop saying Fight Club so much. So quickly, just right up front, huge thanks to JLH for hosting this thing. Thanks, man. And thanks to everybody that came out to kick in teeth last Friday. It was great. I will probably append something at the end of this in the news section, I guess, or the wrap up. Maybe about some future Fight Club events on both the PC and the PS3 for just friends of the channel. I think that'd be kind of fun. And I think that's right in line with what I was talking about in my last little post. For now, though, that is neither meat nor potatoes. So let us talk about Fight Club. So just as a blanket statement, and speaking in kind of broad sweeping generalizations, because that's what I do, I cop to that, I don't think it is possible to overstate the value of participating in these Fight Club things. They are just such fantastic, what did I call them, arenas of learning for you to set out a list of things that you're going to work on and then go out into a semi-controlled environment and fight some different people, get a little bit of variety to sort of refine and hone and tweak your techniques and your tactics and your skills. And just pick up new stuff along the way. And for context, this is probably redundant to a lot of the people listening, a lot of the vets out there, but for new guys like me, to decently new to the PvP scene, may not be familiar with the Fight Club concept. Basically what we're talking about is just 1v1 matches across a group of players. It's group of people go out to a single location, just kind of hang out, summon each other. Could be everybody, could be buddies from your friends list, so you know everybody. Let's go to the Duke's Archives and throw down. Could be complete strangers, like one of the things that Twitch guys are hosting. But basically, a duel across a group. And you just kind of wait your turn and fight as it comes up. I should say a couple things about this last fight. One, I do know you cannot parry a jumping attack, but you can get the partial. I'll talk to that down the road. That is one of the things I'm actually working on over the course of this Fight Club. Two, I was able to pull a victory out there with a very lucky Soul Spear Sucker Punch. That is something that I tried several more times over the course of the night and got punished for severely. That's the kind of thing that you only get to show once. It only works once. So that's not the greatest type of thing to pull in a fight club because you're seeing the same people over and over. And once they see these little tricks, they're kind of like, I'm going to watch out for that down the road. I'm not falling for that again. So it's interesting and it's cool. The Fight Club is this kind of cool sweet spot between a 1v1 match and just sort of the usual spawn camping for PvP that I'll do in Ulasil or in the forest or stuff like that. But just to hammer the point home, just to make sure that it is completely driven into the ground, whether you are new or a veteran or whatever, if you have anything to work, unless you are just a complete and utter master of the game, man, fight clubs are fucking awesome. Seek them out at every opportunity across any Souls game, Demons, Dark, or Dark 2 looming on the horizon, because it is just a beautiful chance to refine your game and get a better and better and better handle on your character. They're awesome, and I am an idiot for this being my first one, 3 months in or however long it's been. Speaking of lessons learned from the Fight Club, why is that guy glowing? I completely neglected to identify that ominous little aura that Monsieur Redemption picked up after he got up from that riposte animation as a red tearstone ring. And I'm thinking everything's going so well. Yeah, I got all my health. I'll trade some hits with you. No problem. And that was something that I just hadn't seen before. And so we exchanged a couple messages, and he said, yep, totally swapped out for the red tearstone ring. And I know what the red tearstone ring is. I know what it does. There was a clever rat's ring in Demon Souls that I'm all too familiar with. But I didn't identify it. I hadn't seen it enough to kind of really know what it was. And being in the Fight Club, you can communicate with the other guys. When something comes up, you say, what the shit was that? And ouch. And you're able to trade knowledge and share knowledge and pick up on these things. And that is the value of doing these fight clubs. And I think more than any other mechanism for PvP intake in the game, you learn the most from these fight clubs because of the variety. You're facing multiple players, each with their own little quirks, each with their own little bag of tricks. So you see more stuff. It's not just you and one other guy going at it, or you and random guys that might not answer your questions going at it. The variety is great, and you're able to see and identify and start to pick up on things from multiple sources. They're just great. And so unless you're an absolute master in every facet of this game, seek fight clubs out at every opportunity because they are so great. And especially if you're new, especially if you're just kind of entering into the PvP arena in a game of many veterans, these fight clubs are absolutely stellar. Case in point, that guy just started glowing, and so I'm suddenly staying away where I wasn't before because, after that last one, it was kind of like, I know what that glow means now. Lessons learned. So what's up to your own benefit there, man? He was tough. I think that was one of 2 times when I was able to beat him out of probably 11 or 12 fights. So he was pretty tough. All these guys were incredibly tough, actually. I was definitely the low man on the totem pole for this entire throwdown. But again, that is one of the great things about the Fight Club is it's a fairly friendly environment. It's a supportive environment, and you can go out there and just get beaten up by guys that are better than you and learn from it and just come away stronger. All right, cool. So that was nearly 8 minutes of hooray Fight Clubs. And capping that first 2/5 of the episode and talking about how fight clubs are such a fantastic opportunity to learn new stuff, I'm going to talk about what I'm trying to learn. What am I working on here? I'm still working on my toggles. I am obviously still terrible at them. I don't know what kind of problem I'm having around that, but it's a problem. The other thing I'm working on is my dual wielding. So this is a newish build for me. It's a dual wielding spell sword, I guess. 45 dex and little unfinished, so 40, I think 39 or 40 intelligence, so a little bit underpowered with the intelligence. I'm going to raise it to 44. Vitality is pretty low and endurance is super low, so I don't have a lot of meat on this character, but I'm really trying to experiment with the partial parries. And maybe this is something that you guys can throw back in terms of knowledge and stuff like that too. I am fascinated by the partial parries. I know there's a lot of, this throws back to the jumping attack thing that I tried I didn't try to parry it. I threw out a partial parry. I'm fascinated with those partials because there seems to be a lot of opportunities and a lot of attacks that you cannot parry, but you can still get the partial on. Jumping attacks for one, like the ground pounds from some of the larger clubs. Also in terms of a lot of dead angles and stuff like that, it seems like you can get partial parries on even though you can't fully parry. So in the absence of a shield, I'm really trying to experiment with my partial parries and throwing those out there as almost like selective blocks. Even when you see an attack that you can't parry, or if you're going to be a little bit too late or a little bit too early to effectively parry, still throw out the parry and try and get the partial as a damage reduction. So it's almost sort of an on-the-fly raise of your shield. Or like an on-the-fly raise of a shield that doesn't have 100% damage reduction. Like if you just flipped up your Caduceus round shield or something like that. Part of it is curiosity. Part of it is just kind of experimenting with it because it's a decently new mechanic for me. And then part of it is just kind of being curious about it, especially especially in terms of dead angles. Because it seems like in a lot of cases, where a dead angle would hit you around the shield, if you try to parry it, you can still get a little bit of the damage reduction. It doesn't hit you outright. And I'm really intrigued by that mechanic. So maybe if you guys have experimented with that before, or if that's just kind of a known thing out there that I'm missing, I'd be really curious to hear, just sort of the role of the partial parry in terms of PvE and stuff like that, sort of on the fly blocks. I've seen some really cool stuff from EWGF Phantom, of course, like he does the demonstration of the almost like the ghost block or whatever it is, where you just tap block at the last possible minute and you just sort of glide through a hit. It doesn't like knock you back, it doesn't have any kind of weapon recoil, it doesn't really have any repercussions whatsoever. You just almost disappear through the hit. You can take an action immediately and stuff like that. That's really cool. You obviously can't do that with the parry because you still go through the animation, but especially in the context of dead angles, it seems like you can partial parry a lot of dead angles where you can't block them or you can't get a full parry. You can at least get some damage reduction, and it seems like kind of a neat way to sort of offset some of those dead angles, if nothing else. The other part of it too is just sort of being new to dual wielding. I rely on my shield a lot. If I have a shield, I am almost constantly running around with that thing raised, unless I'm trying to, regen stamina or something like that. And sort of that on the fly little tap 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 block 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 seems like a nice little transition and a useful technique to have when you're dual wielding. Even if you're not trying to parry outright, you kind of have the ability to at least, not take the full force of a hit. So I'm going to experiment some more with that. Maybe post some stuff, maybe post some findings if I find anything just really interesting. And definitely toss some knowledge my way too. If you guys are versed in sort of cool things you can do with partial parries or tricks you can do with partial parries, especially in terms of, absolutely not having a shield and dual wielding and just sort of using it as a surrogate block. And let me just point out, I'm kind of thinking out loud on that one. There's possibly no basis in reality whatsoever for any of this stuff. But it does seem like you can get some partials on things that would otherwise go around your shield. So if I'm just barking up the wrong tree, if I'm walking into a dead end on that one, let me know. Please correct me. And I will make better use of the time in going back and working on my toggles, which I so sorely need to get down. The other thing I was working on over the course of these matches was spell cancels. This guy, Your Own Benefit, seems to be pretty masterful at canceling spells. I ran into a guy in the last video out in the township that was just a god in terms of spell cancels and creating feints and stuff like that. And it seems like if you're going to play any kind of sorcery build or any kind of mage or even a spell sword, you got to be able to do that kind of thing, to do the spell cancels and draw your opponents in or fake them out, stuff like that. Because sorceries kind of suck, man, in terms of hitting, in terms of connecting. They seem pretty gimped. I've got 45 decks on this character, so I've got the minimum casting time. He casts quicker than somebody with 10 decks or something like that. But even so, Crystal Soul Spear seems to be pretty unreliable in terms of it connecting. Homing Crystal Soul Mass seems like a simple roll away from avoiding the whole thing. So I feel like you got to be pretty tricky with a lot of these sorceries. In Demon Souls, you had the pivot cast where you could just sort of insta-cast a lot of these things, like your, your soul rays and stuff like that. Fireballs, good God, the insta-cast fireballs were beasts. With the exception of Darkbead in Dark Souls, which casts pretty fast, everything else, I don't know, man. It seems pretty tricky. And tricky actually sounds like a good word for it, because it seems like there's an awful lot of deception in being a Dark Souls mage or being a successful Dark Souls mage, a Dark Souls caster, I guess, because the hitboxes on some of these spells, I guess maybe just being the nature of projectiles, seem pretty unforgiving. So when you connect with something, it's because either your opponent made a mistake or you did some sort of badass feint to draw them directly into the path of your soul spear, whatever it happens to be. Tangent-wise, speaking of spells, speaking of sorcery, speaking of demon souls, I kind of miss MP. I kind of miss having that font or that fount of points to spend spells rather than the number of castings. I like the Final Fantasy style a lot more than I like the D&D style. To where it's like you've got your fixed amount of magic points and you can cast anything that you have attuned versus you can cast X of each attuned spell. Because I think as a caster, it gives you a lot more flexibility. It gives you a lot more ability to sort of roll with the punches. If you find somebody that is just dodging your fireballs, you can bust out some ignites. If you find somebody that is, not susceptible to ignites and is just staying away, you can insta-cast some soul rays and stuff like that. And it seemed to give you a lot more leeway in terms of how you wanted to play your mage. Oof, nice. Here's Sassafras. Shout out to him. Cleaning me up nice with those parries. But I did really like the idea of having multiple spells that all draw from the same pool of mana versus having a set number of castings per spell. Especially in the fact that in Demon Souls, you could replenish your magic points, and so you could cast multiple spells. If you are out, you are out. Whereas in Dark Souls, if you run out of a spell, you are out of a spell. And I think I've seen that they've reimagined that in Dark Souls 2, so you can kind of get your castings back. And that probably reduces a lot of the stress on playing as a caster and stuff like that. But I don't know, just a weird random thought there. Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to ramble a little bit, at which point you guys are probably saying, what? Starting to? You started rambling before your theme song even played. So I'm going to wrap it and just touch on a couple pieces of news. So first, my character building on the PS3 is taking a damn long time. I have no idea what the dickens I am doing, but it's taking a lot more time than I initially thought. Part of it is just finding time. Part of it is getting used to a new platform. Just hilarious little aside, I'm making such stupid mistakes trying to get used to the PS3 controller again. I cannot tell you how many times I've tried to swap out an item or toggle on the PS3 controller, and I've got my thumb on the left analog stick, and I'll reach down to try and toggle out or something like that, where the D-pad is on the Xbox or the PC controller, and just hit air. So that's always like a hilarious little whiff, and it's the weirdest feeling in the world to just be poking at nothing. Nonetheless, I'll get it together. I find myself with some free nights this week, so I'll sink in some time, do a lot less sleeping, and finally start appearing out in the PS3 wild. So I do apologize why it's taking me so long to do that. I have no idea why. But I got a couple characters that are almost done, so see you soon on the PS3 side. Also, in the context of fight clubs, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys that were suggesting maybe doing some meetups and stuff like that for friends of the channel. Crap, he's glowing again. And I think that is an absolutely fucking stellar idea. I think there's some amazing people involved with this channel that are, paying attention to stuff like that. And I think it would be so cool to get as many of us together as possible for some kind of fight club event, and we can theme them or do whatever we want. So I'll give some thought to that. Hit me up with your comments and feedback regarding, what might be fun with a lot of that kind of thing, and we can throw something together. All right, I'm bowing out. So, thanks one last time to JLH Redemption for hosting and for the invite to come and join you guys. Thanks to Fiobs for your own benefit for the harsh lessons. Thanks to Sassafras as always, and Imadur, who actually invaded into the fight club, came into a host and 2 red phantoms, and was sort of like, did I just walk into a fight club? Yes, you did, and then came out to participate, have some fun. It was great. It was a blast. Learned a ton. Thanks to you guys for listening. Comments, feedback, and all that kind of stuff is always welcome. Give me a sub if you like it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the partial parry thing too. And also what might be fun in terms of a Friends of a Channel meetup or something like that. We can all just go out and beat ass together. So I'm going to let this clip play, and I will catch you guys next time. Sorry again about the delay. I won't let it happen again. See ya. And oh, damn it. I just realized these clips have no sound. I think there was a quirk with my capture card when I was picking this stuff up. So nothing has any audio. You will just have to witness my death in an eerie silence. That was not eerie at all. Sorry. See ya.